Well, hello and welcome everybody. I am really excited to get to be a part of this TIPWeb-IT Meetup, where we are discussing really the navigation of COVID-19. I definitely know that this is something that is on the forefront of everybody's mind as we're trying to figure out how to navigate this scenario with really no notice, right? And so this is about creating or providing the opportunity for others to connect. So various districts to share ideas and to learn best practices on how we can all navigate this device assignment and even start thinking about that collection process for COVID-19. My name is Stephanie Delgado, and I'm sure many of you have heard of me or have heard me speak during some of our live opportunities. And I am the education manager here with Hayes Software Systems. I really appreciate each of you joining me today. It is an unprecedented time, right? We are all just trying to get through those uncharted waters. And really the goal of the session today is information sharing. So it's definitely an open forum, which I've kind of already mentioned. I would love to hear from you. Definitely don't need to sit and hear me speak this whole time, right? But figuring out some key takeaways that we can have from each other. So glean just general information on the distribution process, and then we'll slowly kind of walk and talk about, it may be something new for a lot of you, but what will the collection process look like? I know, scary, right? As we're all just still kind of getting out there and trying to distribute. So this session is focused on districts with student enrollment of 25,000 or more, but to be quite honest with you, this is an open conversation for everybody. We're excited and glad that each of you are on. So please don't, hinder that or make you want to, leave in any way. There will be additional sessions. Actually, next Thursday, we will have one for school districts with enrollment of under 25,000. And then look for preceding opportunities following that as well. We'll be sending out communications about those, as well as once this becomes live on our support center, so that you can have access to it later as well. All right, now before I get started, I do have some general housekeeping items that I want to mention with everybody. As you kind of saw, I didn't mute everyone. Definitely, I love interaction. So if you have your video on, always great for you to kind of give us some thumbs up, or you can utilize kind of an opportunity to raise hand. Again, if you see those three little dots, you should be able to click that, and you have an opportunity to raise your hand, to do a little clap even. And so you can even unmute yourself and interject if so be. I do have opportunities throughout this hour where we will have open Q&A sessions as well. So if you'd rather wait for that, that will be great too. And I hope you don't mind, but I may pinpoint on a couple of people that I see in the participant list, as I know that some of you have been working on some things already with distribution and so forth. So before I get started, do I have any additional comments or questions? Everybody good to go? I'm seeing head nods. Wonderful. All right, everyone. Well, I would love to take the opportunity to introduce the Hayes team that is currently on, that will be moderating the TIPWeb-IT Meetup today. So if I could have each of you just introduce yourselves. Anna, did you want to say a quick little hello?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with Hayes Software Systems. Great to be with you guys today. I know this is a little bit different than something we've maybe done in the past, to have an open discussion forum like this. So I'm super excited to get feedback as well after the session, find out what you think we could do in the future, other topics that you might be interested in. And of course, from our standpoint, we are incredibly interested in being open to hearing anything that we can do as an organization to try to help you right now. So your CSM is reaching out as you're talking to our support team. Feel free to ask any questions, anything that might be helpful. Maybe we've never done it before, but go ahead and ask. So our team is trying to think of any ways possible to support you guys through this process. It's a really cool opportunity for us as a service organization. We do a lot of service hours as individuals, and this is kind of our opportunity to think about what are ways that we can best support you. And doing this job every day is one of those ways.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you guys.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Anna. How about Jason? Are you on?
Hi guys, this is Jason Moore. I'm a product manager here at Hayes, and I just wanted to extend a thank you for everybody who's joining today. We really are trying to navigate this situation the best we can, and we're eager to hear what you guys are dealing with and how we can help you. So thank you.
Wonderful. And Andressa?
Hi, everyone. So great to see so many faces again. Andressa Fantini, Director of Customer Success. And the title says, our goal is to ensure that you guys are successful as you can be. Then I know Anna mentioned super quick, but yes, my team is definitely reaching out to you all to understand what's coming up and how we can best support you all. Then yeah, it's just a great place to be, to help you all and hear your feedbacks and see what's happening and how we can best support and learn from you all. Thank you so much for making yourself available. We're excited.
Wonderful. Thanks, Andressa. And we have quite a few other Hayes individuals on the session this afternoon. If you want to ping in the chat window, everybody, just to say hello, that'd be wonderful. But I'm going to dive right in because we have just an hour, so I want to make sure we have enough time for everything. Now, we also will have a guest moderator that will actually introduce herself here in a little bit. I'll keep that a little bit of a secret for you. And she'll get to kind of dive into what she, as well as her district, has been doing. Deborah will be talking about Willis Isd here shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next screen. Now, before I do so, actually, one more housekeeping item, everybody. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you have the opportunity to decide what type of view you would like. And so you can kind of play around with the speaker view, or I believe it's called like the panel view, where you can see everybody. If you want to be able to see more of just the speaker as whoever is actually speaking, I would suggest that one to you. And you can see everybody else at the kind of the top of the window. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, everybody, so this is definitely a different climate than we have probably ever experienced before. We have had so many conversations, as Anna was kind of referring to already, with many districts of various sizes and locations across the US. And we are seeing ways that districts are working quickly without really any notice to find ways to get devices into students' hands, depending on various factors such as your district requirements and the means of your district to obtain additional assets. Also, just general questions about regions. I've had conversations with customers who said, Stephanie, we have individuals that are more up in the mountains. We can't, a hotspot potentially may not even work for them. So just looking for ways to ensure that our students are able to still learn. I have just been so blown away by everything that you guys are all doing. And I honestly just want to say thank you. I said that to a district yesterday who was out there distributing to students. And so I'm saying it to each of you. Thank you for your service and what you do as well. I'm going to go ahead and shift over. So let's talk a little bit more about what Hayes has been seeing. So as we have been helping districts enable education that expands beyond the classroom. That's really what it's about. I mean, today's a prime example of all of us on Zoom. I'm sure a lot of you have become fairly knowledgeable in this application. We have seen where districts are needing to acquire these devices to issue to students. So this may be something, and I'd love to see some hand raise even, of pulling devices from carts. So quickly, staff members are going into various locations, they're pulling items from carts, and that's not an easy feat for those that I've talked to, right? All those plugs and everything. And then additionally, okay, what about those students that I've just mentioned that do not currently have internet access at home? How can you still ensure that everybody is being educated and at the same level, and what that can look like? We've heard some great stories here, even in the area where our office is, so in kind of this Austin surrounding area, of districts actually putting hotspots in buses and putting them in neighborhoods, having hotspots at actual locations, so school locations, so that parents can go drive up and have access to internet for students. Love to hear more from each of you during the Q&A of what it's looking like for your district as you are just trying to acquire the necessary assets to ensure that every student gets to be educated at the same level as each other. And then also addressing, you know, the other portion of not just hotspots within a home, but also there are scenarios where there are multiple students in one household. And as you are trying to ensure everybody is covered, which you probably weren't ready to have that amount of assets being issued out at one time, okay, well this household has 3 students technically, but we can only give them 1 or 2 devices, and what will that look like as well? So that's really been another big piece, is what you can offer to the vast majority, if not all, of your student body. So then looking for the optimal scenario for each district as well, we've had lots of conversations of, okay, are we distributing from one location? Are we looking at multiple locations? And then what it would look like for the safety of everybody, so social distancing included as well. So we've had many conversations of the overall flow of, from the beginning stages of prepping to get those assets out of other locations to then get them into TIPWeb-IT as well to ensure all those assets are ready for you to distribute. We've heard various scenarios of districts who haven't had a chance to, and so they have had to distribute outside of the application with the hopes that, of course, which we can, that Hayes can help you to get that information loaded into your application, and then also helping districts that may just need assets entered in to then get to distribute as well for that one-to-one distribution. So we definitely have seen various situations for each district. Did I have any thoughts or insight with any of our moderators to that piece? No? I'll continue on then. So as we are talking about safety, right, that is one of the biggest pieces of this current situation that we're in, is the current climate is where it's not as simple for us to just go out and distribute. And a lot of you, many of you have already done distributions. I do know that there are some new individuals on the session, which is fantastic. But many of you have done this many times over, right? And so you have a process that you typically go through for distribution for the beginning of the year. This is not the beginning, we're actually close to the end. So that's one piece, is this is not the typical scenario for this time of year. But also, what can that process look like? So streamlining it to ensure that you are able to distribute as quickly as possible and as quickly as possible, because the most important thing is that you get the assets into the students' hands, because you're also adhering to the district policy on when actual classes will start, right? So you're also that aspect in mind as well. And so that first piece is that you've been looking at how you're going to quickly distribute. And then the next piece is that safety factor as well, where you have many locations to distribute to students typically. So, but at this point, a majority of you, and I actually will confer with Lily Dean Tate, who at Chicago Public Schools, because they are actually doing it from each location, and she'll get to dive in a little bit more as to the reason behind that. But what we have heard is quite a few of you are distributing from 1 or 2 locations across the district, or potentially in certain areas or regions. And then previously, many of you utilized the opportunity for the digital signature within the application. But again, due to safety reasonings and for that efficiency piece, you're having to look for other ways to capture that signature. Many of you are utilizing other methods ahead of time. So it could be a form that they have to print and fill out, or it may be within another application. It could be a Google form. And so there's various ways that you are getting creative to get that signature. And so we definitely want to hear about the ways that each of you are doing that. I have heard several scenarios where either a Google form is set up, or maybe there's another application that is being utilized, and there's kind of like a parent portal to be able to get those signatures, as well as parents have the opportunity to when they are at distribution to get help to go online to fill out that form as well. So definitely a lot of great information to be coming out as we're continuing on today and with the Q&A session. All right, so I'm going to go ahead with that because I do know that one district that has actually been capturing digital signatures in a different method is actually Willis Isd. And so what I would like to do is introduce and actually allow Deborah to take the floor and talk a little bit about what Willis has been doing in this unprecedented time to distribute to students. So Deborah, I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen. And then Miss Deborah, I'm going to actually see if I can spotlight you. There we go. Hi, Deborah. Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
My name is Deborah Menifee. Thank you, Stephanie, and I work for Willis Isd. We are not one of the greater than 25,000 enrollment districts. Our district is much smaller with about 8,000 students. Let me first also apologize in case I have technical difficulties. We are rural, and while my computer and my internet connection has been pretty stable for these last few weeks and all the conferences I've had the opportunity to attend, suddenly today it's being a little moody. So if I lose you or if I get kicked off, I apologize up front. Such is the world of technology. So let me first say that this is our very first year on TIPWeb-IT. We implemented it last summer and enrolled all of our devices and went to our very first attempt for one-to-one at our high school campus. We rolled out our devices in an orderly fashion, very planned, very organized, or at least as much as we could because we had the time, and rolled it out to about devices about to 90% of our students at that campus. We have devices in carts at our middle schools and in carts and classrooms and in other formats at our elementary. So when this opportunity to learn and think about a different way of doing things came around, we were trying to think fast on our feet how to get, first of all, devices to the high school students that elected not to get devices before or for whatever reason didn't, and to as many of our middle school students that are families that needed them. So we started with a simple Google form on for the parents to complete, saying that their child needed or that their family needed a device. From that form, we knew about how many or started realizing how many that we were going to have to make available. And because the devices were assigned to a campus, as they should be in TIPWeb-IT, we actually distributed from those campuses, so we didn't have to make those kind of transfers for our assets.
Oh, wow, okay.
So that was the easiest, most obvious way for us. So all three of those campus administration helped us with that. My department, the technology department and the instructional technology departments worked to, at the middle school, for instance, to uncart, unwire, and prepare those devices for middle school pickup. We had high concerns about whether we wanted to, how were we going to verify that the right student was getting the right device after we checked it out through TIPWeb. And we were uneasy about requiring driver's license or some kind of a form of identification because that was more contact than we wanted to participate in. And we didn't necessarily want to do signatures like some of our other districts, our surrounding districts were doing. So we decided that we would print out a very large, a full paper size kind of label or sign, for the lack of a better word. We taped it on the top of our devices. And as we gave the device to the student in the car, we took a picture of them with their device and the label that had the information, their name, their ID, and the asset tag number of that device. So not that we have done anything other than keep those as information and documentation, but that was our way of making sure that they know that they were accountable, as well as a backup or some documentation if we needed to go and review the situation or see how things were. Kind of an interesting, different one. And all of you who are in the same spot know that, you know, there's probably only a percentage that we're going to get back to begin with. We've already had people report back that they were moving out of district, and we're going to do the best we can with those. But that was our solution to being as safe as we can. We had 2 different pickup days, about not quite a week apart, for about 3 hours, and they were drive-by, and we handed it to them through the window, took their picture, and they continued on. For those that had not used the Google form to sign up, if there was someone that just came that day, one of the technology staff was also on site to check out a device and prepare it right then and there, so that way they didn't have to make a second trip. So I'm not looking at the numbers probably that some of you are, but we passed out about 700 devices over 2 days, and that was what was through 3 campuses and 3 handout locations. So that was our best solution.
Nice. And Deborah, actually to follow up, something that you did mention that has been a comment or question that we here at Hayes have been hearing is there are some that have already said they are moving out of district. Do you see Willis ISD trying to obtain either the assets back or any form of charges, anything of those sorts for that accountability piece beyond, you know, after the distribution of these assets? Do you see anything of those sorts?
Of course, we will make all attempts to try to recover that device. I feel like that we will have some information, and some of them will come back because there's honest people that will know that that's the right thing to do. I think that we expect or are already preparing for a percentage of loss. We have had conversations about how collection is going to look, and those conversations can pretty much go to a dead end because we just can't even imagine. So much of that depends on, is our opportunity for collection going to be in a month or 2 months, or are we already at the beginning of the next year? And we've had conversations whether collection might just be people who are either moving away if possible, and the graduating seniors, and let everyone else continue with their current devices.
Okay, great. And that was actually a question I was going to ask you. So it sounds like with Willis, the timing you're still potentially uncertain of when you'll collect, but there's conversations about just allowing students to keep the devices and rolling through to the next year.
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of trying to do any kind of mass collection, correct?
That is correct.
And something else, as we will be shifting over to the open Q&A soon, that I'm curious to hear of is what districts are saying or thinking they may be doing. I know, Deborah, you mentioned to me that you guys have kind of joked around about we maybe just have a big storage room or warehouse. So if you want to actually bring that up of like, I mean, it is a potential.
And maybe we're overthinking it, but I think there's a little bit of concern of disinfecting, just health and safety. Right. What does that look like? And I know the kind of the joke I made to you was literally opening up one of our maintenance garage doors and having people come and sit them in there and then close the door for 30 days and then come back. Or I think there's just so much uncertainty with this. For the ones that are in the cases, depending on the material, there's just a lot of questions that we have. So I'm anxious to hear the rest of this for what other districts perhaps are planning, so I can possibly borrow some of those ideas. But this is it's all of it's birthed out of necessity. Where what we have and what we have resource-wise and people-wise to get it to our kids and to answer as many needs as possible.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Is there any key takeaways that you would like to share before we move on to the open Q&A?
no, other than interesting or maybe humorous, we were very entertained by, even though we only provided this for our secondary, we were very entertained by how many parents and elementary students filled their own names out and picked a secondary campus to claim, trying to get a device. So I think that's desperate times all the way around.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. I haven't heard that one yet. As we, I know you districts are just trying to find a way to get enough devices.
Right.
So many of you are doing such extensive checks and balances. You are taking pictures of students. I've heard another district in California who is actually has an SIS pulled up, and as the student comes, they verify the individual on a laptop before they will issue out. And so definitely I see various ways that you guys are all ensuring that you are getting devices into the correct hands, which is just great. The resourcefulness, I think, as you were calling it. All right, Deborah, well, thank you so much. I'm gonna actually go ahead and shift over everybody to the, and see. There we go.
Hey, Stephanie.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, I wanted to jump in and say hi to everybody. I know there's a lot going on in your lives right now, and I want to say we're here to help with whatever we can possibly help with. I'm looking at the board here. I've got a whole team of Hayes folks, not just today, but every single day. That's ready to help you guys as you're trying to navigate some of the waters that you're heading through right now. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And I think, I know I saw some cool information that Kent and Jody from Blue Valley, I think you guys are on. Saw some cool stuff that you guys are doing. So as we head into the kind of the Q&A and sharing the best practices, I'd like to hear what y'all are up to. Is that Stephanie? I don't know.
Go for it. I love it.
Cool. Ken, Jody, do you guys have, do you mind sharing what you guys have been up to?
So bear with me. Somebody is mowing their lawn behind me. So if you hear a lawnmower, welcome to our new world, everybody.
We get it. Dogs and birds and all kinds of stuff join our meeting.
Exactly. So yeah, we have been busy at Blue Valley. Over the course of the last several months, we've luckily finished our one-to-one deployment and did all of secondary actually last year. But finished off our elementary rollout this semester and actually got it done the week before spring break. In our case, elementary has two options. They could have done a high-tech version or a low-tech, no-tech version of our continuous learning model. So those who chose to go the high-tech route are leveraging our Canvas LMS and Zoom capabilities. Those who chose the non-tech version, we used our in-house printing services department to print a little over 700 packets by subject that contain, of course, a wide variety of learning opportunities. And we actually used our busing company to deliver those to the household. So it's kind of a win-win. Our busing company obviously was out of work for the most part. So to be able to leverage them and give them an opportunity to continue to work, have that transportation route that they already know, and to get those packets in the hand of kids was a pretty unique opportunity, and we're glad that we did that. At the secondary level, it is a full one-to-one, where Chromebook is at the middle and MacBook Airs at the high school level, leveraging Canvas. So the timing for Blue Valley was of all things from a tech side, perfect. We already had Canvas in play. Zoom was very easy to get up and rolling. We've actually had it amongst our IT team for multiple years now. So scaling that was no issue. Learning the management console, no problem. And again, we had the devices in the hands of kids. The unfortunate thing is, of course, this struck us during spring break. So there was a lot of folks at the secondary level who left their charger in their locker or even left their device in their locker because we're going on vacation. We have no need for the device. We'll just get it when we get back, right? Well, guess what? We're not coming back. So, so unfortunately, it's now double dipping into the IT inventory. And we made a conscious decision when we went down the one-to-one route that we're going to self-insure. So we buy a certain percentage of extra devices, extra power adapters, extra accessories, And so fortunate that we have those, because that's actually what we're doing now when we have a centralized facility where folks can come and get that accessory. The one that's in their locker, of course, is there. Once that gets picked up, we hope to recoup those, but we also recognize that there will probably be a percentage of loss as well. So getting devices out the door, replacing devices that are breaking, we have a really, really good centralized process through our BV Care support system that we use. Our biggest challenge, like we've touched on this, is how am I going to get all of the 8th grader Chromebooks back and all of the 12th grade MacBook Airs back? And what does that look like? So we've had conversations around, again, is it the centralized model at one location, or are we able to do something at the school level? But again, until we get unknowns of when can staff get into the buildings, when can we do a curbside drop off? Because right now we are very cognizant, we don't want anyone on our campuses. So it wouldn't make much sense to break that rule just for the necessity of a collection. So when the time's right and we're able to do that, then we'll probably go down that route, but we might have to default to a centralized pickup or I guess, drop off. So we continue to go down that path as well, but have no golden answers. So we will see where that brings us, but that's what we've been up to.
Wow.
That's cool. Thank you.
And I think, Jody, did you want to add anything?
I think Kent covered everything. Parents are very understanding. The kids are using the online support system, so if they have trouble, they can put their own ticket in. So no matter what time of day they put a ticket in, we can see them, we can respond back. So we're doing okay.
Wonderful. Something I did want to follow up with, Ken, that you mentioned was those repair items. Many of us have been so focused on getting those assets distributed out. So the next step is during that time frame that the students are at home with that e-learning, but devices do need to be repaired. What does that look like exactly for you? You had made kind of comment towards it, so I was just curious if you have a plan in place.
Yeah, so Jody kind of leveraged that. So we have our BV Care system. BV Care is our support desk. That's always been primarily an internal for staff mechanism, but there's always been a component where patrons, where parents can put in tickets through our website, and it funnels into our BV Care system. And so we've had to expand that. We've had to expand that now to students doing that, because students used to take their initial issue to a staff member first and foremost within the building, see if they could fix it. And then it got escalated from there to another place in the building called a power-up support cart, where if the device needed to be swapped out, it could be all swapped out locally within the building. It was run by building personnel. That's where the Hayes inventory system was updated and done. And so obviously all those barriers have been broken down now, and now the student and or the parent can put in the ticket on behalf of their student. So first and foremost, that's the first mechanism, just to get the information in. As soon as BV Care, and we have remote capabilities, right? So we'll remote into a Mac if we need to, and see if we can fix it remotely. If it's truly a hardware issue, then, and we've deemed it that way through obviously a back and forth conversation with the family, then that's when we escalate it to the centralized pickup, and we walk them through that process, where to go. It's by appointment only, so we set up an appointment so we know exactly what they're picking up. So that way on our side, we have our inventory all ready for that day. In fact, today's one of those days that we're doing that. So from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. today, we have all those slots filled, 10-minute slots. And so we know exactly who's coming for a MacBook Air charger, who's coming for a MacBook, who's coming for a Chromebook charger. And so we prep all that stuff on Monday for our Tuesday, Thursday appointments. And that's how we facilitate that. So when they bring us a broken device, we are literally swapping it out with the device from our self-insure pile. So they're basically getting a brand new device in hand. And then on the back end, when we take that device, we're setting them all to the side for now. We don't really touch them. We obviously have an upfront through our ticketing system what the issue is. So when the time's right, we will start going through those and start fixing broken hinges, keyboards, whatever that problem is. And then backfilling the inventory that's going out the door. So ultimately, the stuff that we're taking in, we're going to fix, and that will become our backstock inventory as we get through our self-insure pile, if that makes sense.
And then I'm sure at the same time also adhering to that whole social distancing or, you know, that safety measure as well. So in addition to just trying to, you know, repair those items, you're also probably adhering to that as well.
Yeah, so what's really nice is fortunately we have a really great centralized location, literally centralized within the district. So it's equal distance for, you know, everyone in the north, everyone to the south, and it basically got a vestibule into that entry into the main building. And so, you know, once you enter that first set of double doors, you're basically greeted with a table, and the table basically says, "Please place your device on that table." And then from the other side of the vestibule, probably a good 15 feet on the other side of it, we open up the door just to validate who you are, so because you should already have an appointment, and to confirm what you're here for. And because we already know who should be coming and what they need, we already have it at the table there for them. So as soon as they confirm that's what they're here for, they take it and walk right out the door. Chromebooks can log in from anywhere, so they don't need to log in. They don't need to do anything within the facility. And our MacBook Air, we actually do ask them to log in at our facility on our wireless, because that's the first initial login that we need them to do. So that takes care of that. And then once they're out and on their way back to their car, we go out to the table and pick up that device that they brought in that was broken. Wow. So that really at no point in that are we closer than 15 feet to the customer.
Wow, wow, very impressive. Thank you for that, both of you, Ken and Jody. Really appreciate it.
What do you do about
What?
So when you get that back, are you cleaning it? Are you setting it aside so that you don't touch it for a certain number of days? Like what, how
yeah, so let me talk on that really quick. One step that I'm missing that's actually really important from the sanitation standpoint is every device that we're handing out, we're including an iCloth sanitation wipe, because we expect that last person to touch it, which is now the customer, that when they get it, that we're providing them with that safe wipe. And so of course they're loving that. And of course, many of our customers are already coming with something of their own as well, but we like, of course, our wipe, it's been approved, everything else. And so we're handing that out with every single device that we hand out. Devices that we take in, we are carrying into a centralized location and basically leaving them there for a period of time until we run short or frankly have more time to go through and start putting those into the different piles of what the issues are, and then getting those fixed either internally or through a third-party service provider that we have. So if it's going to them, we open up a ticket with that third-party service provider and they just want to know what the issue is. So by putting them into those piles, those kind of groups of what issue they're having, we're already doing the upfront work to get through that pile pretty quickly when we need to.
Wonderful. That's great. Actually, we will be touching a little bit on sanitization here in a little bit, actually, Ken. So I appreciate you mentioning that as well. You guys definitely have it sounds like a solid process that has really been working for you. I definitely learned several things myself just alone, so hopefully everybody else has gleaned some good information as well. Matt, did you have a follow-up? Or I was going to call on another one of our lovely individuals who are on today.
No, this is your show. I just actually
not sure about that. Yes, so we have Dallas ISD. Lynn Wilkerson is actually on as well. I did let him know I would be reaching or connecting with him ahead of time. But Lynn, I would love to hear a little bit about what Dallas has been doing. So if you're still on, I see you. Do you mind just talking a bit about who you are, the district, what you do, and then how has the distribution, the current scenario come about? Did you need to issue additional devices? How is it different than previous distributions?
Hello, everyone. I'm Lynn Wilkerson. I'm the manager of controllable asset management with Dallas ISD. I'm more on the financial services side of things. So I work separate from technology, but obviously we have to work with them constantly. We have been basically doing catch up for most of the time because we made our decision, or at least our board made our decision to shut down during spring break, which is the week of March 16th. So that created an issue because there was a lot of miscommunication or as was mentioned before at Blue Valley, it was made that decision during the break so people weren't available to carry out anything, and we didn't make any preparation to begin with. I would have preferred if we'd maybe taken a week after the break and not use that week to do anything, so we could organize a little more. But again, I'm not with technology, so I had to let them do what they do. So my department basically just supports all the campuses and all the technology and what they're doing with those. Our campuses did various different things. We have about 150,000 students with 230 campuses. So a lot of them have minds of their own. So they'll come up with ways to do things, or within our own school leadership department, we have separate groups within those, and it's broken down within those. So, we have the bureaucracy where one group over here, if they don't talk to another group over here, they came up with their own plan. So we have some who we have I would say probably a third of the group so far has been used TIPWeb, did the assignments out of there. We have separate forms that we use for responsibility forms that we use. So we're still doing paper on that side of it. One part of our group, our school leadership, decided to use the Google Doc, as some of you have already spoken about. So that's the teachers would go in, log in, or the parents would go in, log in, identify who needed a device, and then those would be the teachers or the parents who would come to the campus and then get the device. And then some just did basic paperwork, and then they turn it into us, and then we have to go back and update our software, TIPWeb, with those assignments. So like I said, we have probably every different way you can think of. You could issue out devices to students. We've done it. And now it's just basically trying to catch up and bring all that together so we can get a record of what's going on and where everything's at. We're still giving out devices. We're still buying devices. We have 15, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have about 15,000 hotspots coming in that we're going to be distributing. We have currently about 3,500 requests for those hotspots so far. So we're going to be stockpiling and have those available for whoever needs them. And we've been giving out what stock we already had to those students. And the parents obviously were picking up for those students. So yeah, our biggest issue now is we've probably gone through the distribution side, but we're looking at the back end now. It's going to be what we can, at least hopefully we'll have time to plan for that and figure out what we're going to do.
Wow, so I'm hearing, it sounds like you have had some various scenarios as ways to distribute and get assets into students' hands. And something that I heard was that some of them, the processes were exterior of the TIPWeb-IT application. So it could be some sort of Google form. Were people utilizing also maybe spreadsheets that you then are looking to load that data, or did everybody utilize the application to issue or distribute more so to students?
It was basically broken down into 3 different ways. You could have it in TIPWeb. We had them just paper forms, or we're tracking on an Excel spreadsheet. So that's basically the 3 different ways I'm getting the data. So obviously the ones that are already in TIPWeb, that I don't have to work with those, but the other 2 forms we're bringing into our department, and then we go in to TIPWeb and make sure to get into assigned in the system to those.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like I said, is just trying to get all that information in and reaching out. And I probably have 10 more campuses. We're probably about a third of the way of collecting all the data that we need out there. Unfortunately, we were only in the 2nd year of our 3-year move to one-to-one, at least having a one-to-one device on every campus. So that put us in a bind. Our high schools, about half of our high schools were already set up, so they were good. We had some middle schools were already set up, whether with a separate program, we have donations on iPads, or we were already working with a couple of the specialty campuses. But most of the others, as you were saying, Stephanie, a lot of stuff was already built into the cows and the computer parts. So all that had to be pulled out, and not all the campuses had enough devices for the student body they had. So they had to make that decision. Okay, do we, as you noticed on your PowerPoint there, your display, some campuses did it 1 per parent. Some could do 1 per student. It all depended on how many devices they had available.
Well, yeah, that's a good note that you made about that, because I was definitely curious to hear more scenarios where you have multiple students in one home and how to address that. Because Of course, some have a little bit of a stockpile, but maybe not enough to be able to cover their entire student body, right? Good to hear that there's definitely some consistency across districts on how you can ensure that everybody has the opportunity to have a device in their hands. Are you using any other forms of devices? iPads, tablets?
Yeah, I mean, we've handed out Kindles to the lower grades. They've been using those because that's what they've been using in the classrooms anyway. We were typically doing pre-K to second grade was Kindles. Third grade and up was Chromebooks. So those are basically what some campuses just gave out third through 5. At the elementary levels, some did all the way, everything device they had. So again, it was a case of we didn't have time to set up a process and set up what every campus needed to do. So a lot of them just went off on their own doing it.
I see.
So that's what hopefully obviously in the future, we don't plan for this the same as we didn't plan for our tornado last fall in the fall.
Right.
So these are all things that we didn't plan on that we have to figure out, okay, going forward, we can do this hindsight. We can figure out how to do this better. But right now, we just have to manage it and support the campuses and try to do whatever we can to get the students the devices.
Yeah. And I think one thing that we all can hope to start to plan for is that collection process and what potentially that could look like. Has your district in any way kind of started discussing what that would look like for Dallas?
I think that's what we're just starting to discuss now is basically when that return will be. Obviously, we're now definitely shut down. I know, and here in Texas anyway, I know we're definitely into May. I'm hoping that it'll be something that we can have them return, at the end of the school year, our technical school year, at the end of May. But again, that'll be something we have time, hopefully now, to plan that all out and figure out what we're going to do.
Right. Yep. That's the one thing I think we can at least all try to do is prep for whatever the collection process will look like. So it sounds like you potentially will want to try to collect it at the end of the year. Is that how Dallas typically handles distributions? Is they collect them at the end of the year?
Well, as I said, first, we were just getting into that one-to-one. We only had going into last year, we only had basically 3 campuses that were one-to-one that they took home anyway.
Gotcha.
So it was just in the fall of this year, about Christmas, that we finished up doing about half of the high schools doing that. So this is not a set thing that we were used to. We would assist my department would assist those few campuses that were doing one-to-one at the end of the year for returning those devices. But now we're obviously talking about a significantly larger number of devices that had to be turned in.
I hear you. So Glenn, if there's any major takeaway that you could give to everybody on this session, what would it be? Those that are starting out that haven't distributed yet, especially, I think they would appreciate any insight.
Well, obviously, if you're just starting out, be happy that you have had time to make some plans about what you're going to do. Unfortunately, what I know our campus, our district, and I'm sure other districts was quite reflexive as basically whatever we were told to do quickly as much as we could. So having the ability to plan ahead is great. And as I would think, if you can set up that time slot and organize, I don't know, obviously depending on the size of your district, that's going to be an issue. But we, like the other campuses, other districts, we also did but campus by campus. So we didn't do any centralized. And I think it's better to manage it campus by campus because it's more familiar to the students and the parents. And you micromanage it a little better. If you try to do it, especially on our side of it, there's just too many students for us to try to bring them into one centralized location. It's easier to the campus manage it. It's more familiar with the parents, more familiar with the students.
Wonderful. Thank you for that tidbit, Lynn. I really appreciate it. I would love to open up the conversation to anybody else on the session. I was going to see if Willie Dean is on. If she is not, I would love to hear for those that have already distributed any key takeaways that you would like to share. Are you utilizing a more centralized location? Are you distributing from all campuses because of just your the region that you're in? What does the collection process potentially look like? Do I have anybody that would like to give us a little insight? now. All right, well, I can speak a little bit about Chicago ISD. I think this is one that's a great, it's a variant what others have seen. And so I'll do a quick little recap on that, and then we'll progress through the presentation that we have on hand. As I see we're getting close to that hour time frame, I definitely want to ensure I respect everybody's time. But if we do happen to go over, if you can stay, wonderful. If you cannot, this will be recorded. So with Chicago ISD, what I wanted to bring up is because of the size, I think something similar to what Lynn just mentioned is because of the size of the district, they did not have the opportunity really to do any kind of centralized distributions. Now they have are allowing each campus to distribute from those specific locations, and they are doing very similar things to what we've all been hearing about ensuring that it's done efficiently and quickly, as well as that safety factor with social distancing. And so there is somebody, they also are filling out forms online ahead of time for that digital signature, because again, where TIPWeb-IT has that great opportunity to capture digital signatures right there in the application, because of social distancing requirements, it's just not something that they're able to do at this time. So they are capturing that signature ahead of time. And then when the student and or parents come, because right, the student doesn't always come with the parent, then they are ensuring that it is the correct student that they are then issuing that device out to the parent as well. But the big key takeaway for me with them is that they are doing it per campus. The other piece is they have set up, as they call it, like a stockpile or extra devices with each principal of the campuses, so that if devices do need to be swapped out, the principal actually has the means to do so themselves. And so they have a process for that as well. That's definitely something different than what we've been hearing. So they're putting it, because of the size of the district, they are putting it into other people's hands than just their IT department or to help distribute out. So I definitely wanted to mention that piece to everybody as well. Before I continue on, did I have any comments or questions from anybody else on the session? If not, I'm going to go ahead and transition in. And again, thank each of you for taking the time to speak on the session. Any information that we can have to glean additional information is always just extremely helpful. So let me just want to make sure you can see my screen. Bear with me, everybody. I have lost my screen. Bear with me. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and share now. There we go. All right, there we go, everybody. All right, so something we have been talking quite a bit about here at Hayes Software is what can we do at Hayes to help you? What are those ways that we can support you? As you'll see on your screen, and you should be seeing a PowerPoint slide at this point, but we are actively reviewing what the product actually can do for you as well. So not just helping out with processes and procedures and that safety piece and ways to distribute quickly and safely, but also we are thinking to the future and what collection will look like. So what are the areas that you guys see the potential for some additions to the application or some alterations that would be beneficial, you feel, as you are looking at collecting? Something that we have seen across districts is some are actually moving all devices and students to one location, so to like a virtual location, a site, where they can distribute out quickly from that one location. And so with that is what does collection look like then at that point? Is it collecting back to that site and then somehow, you know, here at Hayes, being able to push that information back down to the site level? So I'd love to open this up, and Anna and Jason, if you had any comments that you would like to make ahead of time before we open it up to any suggested opportunities that we would have at Hayes to review and update the product.
Where we were 3 weeks ago.
Okay, and I apologize. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay, I lost my. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again. There we go. Sorry, everybody. Are you able to see that slide again on my screen? Perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up. All right. So as we are starting to look at going towards the end of this session today, there are pieces that Hayes is here to support you for. And so I wanted to ensure that I cover each of those pieces before we said our goodbyes this afternoon. So one of them is being able to adjust our services to meet our customer needs. Definitely, we have already with our support team, we are on active calls daily, pretty much of all hours, where we are having discussions with districts of all sizes about what distribution can look like. Some, it's I am distributing tomorrow, what can that look like? For others, it is, okay, I have a couple of days, I need to get assets loaded into the application. What are the methods that I have to quickly get assets into the application? And for some districts, it's both. And so we are looking at, part of it's gonna have to be outside of the application. I think Lynn kind of touched on this. And some items will be able to be issued out of the application. And so we have been collecting that information. One of the things that we definitely want to emphasize to each of you is before you get started, and if you're not quite sure the direction to go, to please go ahead and reach out to our support team or your customer success manager, which Andressa will get to chat here quickly after this slide, a little bit about how they can support you. But we are definitely here to help you. That is just one way that we've already kind of bridged out. So just working through what a physical distribution can actually look like as well to get the assets into students' hands. We've heard various scenarios today from driving up and just handing with maybe some sort of document on the device, and as well as signatures of some form being filled out prior to. So lots of opportunities. We are just pulling all that information together so that we can share that with you. We do have a document already started on the Support Center, by the way, to how to quickly issue or distribute to staff or students. So definitely can look for that. And I'll make sure that we get an email out to everybody after this that lets you see that as well. Also, what does it look like to account for the distribution? So I kind of touched on that, on the mix of opportunities to distribute outside the application versus in, or maybe both. So definitely something that we are starting to see quite a few different scenarios, just dependent on your current situation. So the piece I touched on earlier is, what about cleaning up your data after distribution? We've had quite a few conversations on this, having discussions about, for those that maybe we do help to get all of their assets and students to a virtual site, well, what can Hayes do to help get that information back over to the correct locations? A lot of that can take place with your SIS. So that's definitely a helpful piece for us, but we will ensure that we walk through that with you, and that we do our checks and balances to ensure that everybody, the information is accurate, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important with the application, is ensuring that your data is accurate. That's why, a big reason of why a lot of you, of course, utilize TIPWeb-IT. And then if we need to, we can also help with spreadsheets as well. So if you do not have the opportunity to actually load data into the application ahead of time, we can definitely help to get data loaded into the application. We've been doing that quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and we'll continue until, of course, the need is no longer there. All right, the one thing I really wanted to touch on before, because Ken actually you had made a comment about it, is the opportunity for what is called sanitization. And this is actually something new to Hay Software Systems, but it's the opportunity to protect the district from the widespread of germs. So ensuring that your students are safe and healthy, as well as your staff members, as well as yourselves, and what that can look like. And so there is an opportunity with a partner of ours to do what's called sanitization. It's a service, and it allows for even from buildings to transportation, as well, of course, the devices and so forth. You should be seeing information coming out from potentially your sales reps. I know our customer success team has also been actively a part of this as well. And so just one more way that whatever we can do to help you during this time. Do I have any comments or add-tos from the Hayes team on that? No? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and continue on. All right, everyone, so I've already kind of touched on it, but it never hurts, I think, to bring something up a few times. That's how I remember, at least, is having that repetition. And the one big piece that I know you hear from us a lot is there is no limit to how many times we will answer your calls or emails or who. Everybody is covered under the umbrella with Hay Software Systems. You have your support team, and there's the support email as well as their 800 number, where this is an opportunity for you to actively reach out before you start to distribute, and even down the road with collection. And of course, anything in between. I know a lot of you are saying that you're being able to catch up on other things, and so you can definitely reach out to us for all those other fun things that could be taking place at this point. Just want to remind you that support is that kind of opportunity or for you to reach out to us when you are in need of some just additional support or help. And then I'd love to give the floor to Andressa to chat a little bit about customer success.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, as I previously mentioned, my team's main responsibility is ensuring that you are and you feel successful. Then you are part of the Hayes family, and we care about you, how you feel, and we want to learn from you how we can best assist you and how we can make your life easier. Then I know sometimes we reach out to you a lot. We reach out to you via email or even ask for 15 minutes of your time over the phone. And the reason behind is because we want to hear from you and your team to understand your responsibilities, your goals, short and long term as well, so we can ensure to proactively assist you all and avoid any roadblocks or reactive approach that could cause any stress to you and your team. Then please do not hesitate to reach out to us. If there's anything that we can do for you all, we are here to help and to advocate for you. Then use us as a resource. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andressa. Well, everyone, that concludes the session on TIPWeb-IT and navigating the coronavirus. I do want to open up the floor one more time for any additional comments or questions before I fully close out this session. Is there anyone that had one more item or anything that they wanted to bring up to the team? Okay. Well, everybody, I do want to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to spend with us, as well as each other. Definitely, I learned some new things today on kind of processes. And as I mentioned earlier, this is definitely a unprecedented time. A lot of us are navigating things that we've never had to navigate before in very short time frames. So anything that you would like to submit to us, you can do that by, of course, submitting to support@haysoft.com. If there's something maybe after the session that you're like, ooh, I should have mentioned that, or I have a question about. Additionally, just a reminder, we will be having weekly sessions to try to glean information from each other. And so if you are able to attend those for this group, it'll be bi-weekly, so you will not have another one for not this coming week, but the following. Again, we just hope that each of you will join us, and we want to say thank you for all that you are doing to get these assets into students' hands. We're here just to support you in any way that we can, and we are just very grateful to each of you being out there on the front lines, distributing, going into classrooms and pulling devices from carts. So again, thank you from all of us at Hayes, and I hope everybody enjoyed the session today. A thumbs up. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and stay dry for those that are getting storms.
Bye, Steph.
Bye. Take care.